Questions? Are you surprised by the New Testament data on Mary? Class? You expected more.
Yeah.
Did anybody expect less about her there? More, right? Were you aware of the diversity of attitudes toward Mary? Like those of Mark and Luke, and how they differ? If not, why do you think this was never mentioned in sermons, catechism classes, and so on?
Because our beliefs have developed, and what was believed back then, sometimes we don't consider as important as what we believe now, which is wrong. It's wrong to do that because, like you said, when Jesus and his reality, his humanity,
and the church's humanity.
Right, and respecting our biblical ancestors in the faith, it just disappears.
Wow.
And then we lose a lot.
Yeah, we lose a lot. We lose a lot. We lose a tremendous amount.
And then people are sometimes afraid, maybe pastors, to speak about these things because they don't want to be dismissed.
I don't want to confuse anybody.
Right.
I don't want to confuse anybody.
I don't want to have to go too deep in because some people might understand, other people.
Pastors have it rough, folks. Preachers, homilists have it rough. They have a big, it's not a class like a select class where you have people that are eager to and are journeying. How long have we journeyed together, some people in this room? Years. Years, 3 years, 3 years, our sister here. A number of people that on a weekly, let's not just say 3 years, 6 times out of the year we meet? We meet every week. We meet every week, sometimes multiple times with different events that kind of link together with one organizer and a whole bunch of people. See, you got to understand, that's not what Mass is. That's not what a sermon is. You have a much more diverse group of people. Yes, they're journeying together, but it's not this intellectual thing primarily. It's coming together to break the bread, to drink the cup, to find the source and summit of our Christianity.
And
which this also has to spring from, that liturgical action, what we do in here. This is not just an intellectual, trivial pursuit of the Bible and Catholic things and Christian things.
What you've done for us is you have presented what the greatest biblical scholars
We're doing that.
time and times past,
Yeah.
you've been able to convey their understanding and research that is founded on tremendous
Thank you, Mary. Sincerely, Mary, we are doing this, plural, because it is a dialogue that you being here enables that to happen and challenges me. Yes, Evelyn.
I can personally say from sisters in ministries, they're still saying, I will not go to Bill's class because I cannot accept or I don't want, whatever. There's a lot of people cannot come in this class because they say, why upset the way I feel?
It's all right.
Oh, I agree, it's all right.
That's where they're at.
I look at it this way. It doesn't change my view of Jesus or Mary. It just explains a lot of things because my question to take this class was, why do you have different people accept certain parts of the Bible and not others?
Right.
So this
explains it.
It doesn't exchange how you feel about Jesus, Mary. Just explain.
And hopefully it clarifies the steps.
And it helps you go deeper into relationship with God, and it also doesn't take away your own personal relationship with God. It doesn't.
Should enhance it.
It should enhance it. It does.
Even Jesus himself, we don't know too much about the first 30 years of Jesus.
Say that again, I'm sorry?
We don't know too much about the first 30 years of Jesus.
No. But then we got cultural anthropology and the social sciences to tell us, actually the first 30 years wouldn't be that phenomenal. We could see if he's from Nazareth, we know a hell of a lot about him, what he would have been doing. If he's in that profession, it isn't the kind of life that we have here. Like if he's an American, oh my God, or a Western person, modern person, then yeah, there is a lot that's missing there, because they could be we do many things. Did he go to Paris? Did he go to Disney World? How many times did he go to Disney World? But for Jesus, it's pretty humdrum. This is what a Nazarene person would have been doing up to the point where he had a public face. Yeah, but I agree with you. I agree with you that yeah, but that's typical of these societies and their literature. Why would you write about a person during his youth?
Yeah,
Youth's not important.
that's of interest.
Dandy, you were going to say something.
No, I was just pushing the button on the blender.
Oh, right, the Vitamix. All right, we're 14 minutes over the turn. Go ahead, Violet.
But even now, we say it's sister and brother in Christ.
Sure.
That's what we're talking.
And that's a beautiful thing, but that is not adequate to explain the anomalous brothers and sisters of Jesus. For many Protestant brothers and sisters isn't even an issue. Brothers and sisters mean Mary had other children, no problem. For Catholics, Eastern Orthodox, some high Anglicans, some high Lutherans, it's a problem. It's a problem because we have this understanding of Mary's perduring physical virginity.
And they had a thing again with spirituality. We're all in different stages of our spiritual growth.
Yes.
So some people want to go deeper.
Yes.
And some want to remain stagnant. So everybody's in a different stage.
Right. The only danger with that is like when Evelyn, we said, well, it's all right. It's let me amend that. It's not necessarily all right. It's not all right to say, I want to be, okay, I just want to be where I am, and you're the same way 5 years from now that you were 5 years ago. Thomas Merton, the great spiritual master, said it best. If the you of 5 years ago wouldn't call the you of today a heretic, you haven't spiritually grown.
Right.
How about that one?
Yes, that's it.
Physiologically, I want you to think about this as we go to lunch. How do you picture Mary? Like this picture here?
No.
Jake factor, how can he say, like, we're not, who's my mother and who's my
Of course she did. She'd have to live with that the rest of her life.
That's
This is the thing. People got so much devotional crust on this. We like to think Mary's walking around, Nazareth and like in blue, wearing blue, which is ridiculous. And why would she be wearing blue? Blue is how difficult it is to facsimilate blue? But see, by that point, she's wearing blue after the first 1,000 years of Christianity and iconography. So we just retroject that back. Once we hit rationalistic times, we start, with the Renaissance. Now art begins to be photorealistic a little bit more. So now we start going back in time. We have an artist in the room, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I think a few, actually, but we have a professional artist. And from the history of art, how and when you have people who are approaching these things through very kitsch devotional images, we tend to forget the steps that go into the deep symbolism that existed. Like, why is Mary wearing red in the first 1,000 years of iconography? Why does she have 3 stars? And then when she gets confused with the woman in Revelation later on in Western iconography and imagery, suddenly she has 12 stars. And then she's wearing blue like the sky vault. Okay, her mantle. What I'm trying to say is that things change. And we don't always recognize all those stages, very rarely recognize all those stages of change, and we tend to collapse them back onto, whether it's image or narrative, back onto the historical figure who's being represented by these stories in art.
But they did change the image a lot.
Oh yeah, and Jesus too. Big time.
And if they were
And that's why some people insist, why are you showing this image of Jesus? Well, this is a culturally plausible image of a first century Palestinian male.
because if they were poor, he wouldn't be dressed the way they depicted him in church, and neither would she.
Right. And this is the thing that we have people in the saints throughout different times, despite their limitations, rediscovering that and rediscovering. Francis of Assisi is the best example for me. but there's a whole bunch of people that have done this. Rediscover Jesus the poor. You come 1,000 years into Christianity and you have a bunch of rich Italian merchants, and they've got Jesus as this rich, powerful golden light. They're forgetting the reason why we started putting him in golden light is it's a way of expressing an experience of the risen Lord, because gold represents light, right? And the sun and so forth. In a high trance state, by the way. Like white, blinding white light, and I'm experiencing the God or Jesus in there, okay? Now it becomes like the gold of European kings, right? Now I start, see, it's so easy to go back to, Jesus flipped everything on its head. It's the poor who are honored. And now what I'm doing, see, let's just cleverly and slowly turn, it's not Jesus I'm worshiping, it's riches I'm worshiping. So Jesus is rich? No, riches are Jesus. See how I do that? It goes right back. And then the saints, this is why it's great to have saints, right? They come back and they, no, we got to get back here, okay? And Francis of Assisi adopts the poverty of Christ, right? But then what do we do to Francis? Oh, there's Lupo the dog. And we just, see, what it really is, it's just a cover. It's just a cover to get it back to the way we want it. That's the problem with having excessive devotion and emotion and sentimentality. Because that, oh, Bill, come on, you did too negative. Oh, let's get it back to this Christmassy feeling and everybody feel great. And meanwhile, we have people and racism and all these problems going on, and we should be facing these problems and how they cannot possibly be coherent with the gospel and what our church is supposed to stand for and officially does, but in practice, we're a little bit different. But see, with sentimentality, big crust of sentimentality and devotions, we forget how the incarnation bleeds. We forget that Mary's walking around in even the Quran represents this beautiful, much more honestly. It remembers that Mary during her life was thought of in whispers in her village as a whore. One who should have been stoned to death, or worse. The Quran has her walking through the village and her son is in her hands, saying, no, my mother is not. But you understand what I'm trying to say? We forget that, and with all this wonderful pious sentiment, we forget that who we are proclaiming as Queen of Heaven, and I think rightly so, is one of the lowest on the socioeconomic scale. And so, you know what? It gets back to what a friend said to me once. And this is a great way to put it. It is irreverent to say Jesus farted. It is blasphemous to say he didn't. And I want you to think about that. Better to be irreverent than to be blasphemous. Yeah.
How does the Quran view Mary?
Oh, honored. She's the only woman mentioned by name. Extremely honored, most honored of all women. Her son is the Messiah. Yes. That's how the Quran views Mary.